Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we are anything but straight. My name is Space,
And I'm Bean.
and we welcome you to our episode, which is about what?
Today, we are talking about anxiety and depression in the fandom. August is actually, you said, National Suicide Awareness Month, correct?
Well, we're in September, so
Or
yes.
September, doy. My brain.
That's what it says. That's what it says on the
Yeah.
Trevor Project website. So I'm going based off of what they have. It could be old information, but I think it is just for September.
Well, regardless, fall and winter, is when seasonal depression kicks in, which for people with clinical depression who, has it all the time, makes things worse. So I think it's an important topic to talk about. But before we do, we just want to put in a few, warnings, some trigger warnings. We are going to be talking about some sensitive things. We're going to be talking about not just depression and anxiety. We're going to be talking about different forms of abuse, suicide mentions. If anything like that triggers you, or if you're not ready to listen to a conversation about this kind of topic, then it's okay. Don't feel bad. You are allowed to skip an episode if it would put you in an uncomfortable place. We're not here to make anybody uncomfortable. We're just wanting to have a conversation since it is close to Space and I's heart, and just to put
Very
some light on the
close.
situation.
And the last time I remember doing an episode like this, because I don't think we've ever done a follow-up up until now, was it was probably right when I started for media, and we did a show based on that, but I wasn't clinically, I guess,
Experienced?
what is it called? I guess you could say, well, I wasn't clinically diagnosed with
Oh, gotcha.
depression. That was like in my early stages. It was to the point where I was like, I'm okay, I'm fine. Other people's problems are worse than mine. That's usually a key indicator that you have it. But I did it that way. And so I got a couple of lashbacks on it because they're like, well, you wouldn't know. And it's true, I didn't know. Fast forward now, I know. And
Yeah.
it's not the best. This is a good follow-up episode a couple years later. I'm both excited. I know that sounds strange, but I'm both excited because there's changes between these two dramatic changes. But I'm also sad because it's a hard topic to go on.
And
So.
it's also important to remember that we are not, professionals in this topic. We haven't gone to like college or any kind of schooling for this sort of thing. We're just talking about our own. Yeah, we're not doctors. We're just talking about our own personal experiences, and later we'll also be discussing some experiences from folks who have emailed us. And so we're not professionals in this, so do not take us as such.
Right. We will also be providing communication contacts for you guys as well. That'll be available both on the virtual. Thank you.
There you go.
That'll be available in the description below. I actually do have 37 contacts from 37 different countries around the world. So regardless of where you are, there's a good chance that you can get in contact with someone if you need the help. So we'll have all that information. We'll kind of discuss that later on the episode. But first, we want to go over the basics of depression and what those symptoms are. Do you want me to go over these, or do you want to go? We can just both do it.
You go ahead and talk about the symptoms.
Clinic. Okay. So, according to the Mayo Clinic, which, by the way, if anyone else thinks of the Mayo Clinic as a jar of mayo,
I know, right? I was like, why do you have to name
everywhere.
yourself this? It's distracting.
This is stupid. That's all I think about is mayo, and then everything else that comes along with that. The symptoms of depression are the following. Feelings of sadness. So that can be a range of you're just not feeling great, kind of mopey. Maybe you've cried a couple of times. Maybe you're just not sure why. Angry outbursts, okay, also can be associated with schizophrenia. And bipolar, which my doctor thinks I have, but I have not gone to a psychologist yet to get that diagnosis, nor do I want to go because I don't want that diagnosis. Um, Loss of interest in normal activities. We have sleep disturbances, lack of energy, reduced appetite, anxiety, which anxiety, like we mentioned, is, I like to call it the precursor to depression because anxiety usually leads to depression and then you just have it with it. So
Yeah.
it's like a double whammy of not
Yeah,
funness.
definitely.
Um, Slowed thinking and body movements, feelings of worthlessness, guilt, and self blaming. And then when all of those just line up perfectly, then you have the last bit, which is suicidal thoughts, which is usually, and that's the last like symptom because if everything, like I said, aligns just perfectly, which for a lot of us, it happens almost on a daily basis, suicidal thoughts happen on a daily basis.
It can, and it can be a part of like impulsive thoughts as well. Some people, when they have suicidal thoughts, they're on impulse. They might not act on them. They might not plan on them, but they still think about it. And that's the thing about when you're feeling suicidal. It's not always I'm feeling suicidal, so I'm going to plan on doing it. Sometimes it's I'm feeling suicidal and I'm thinking about ways to do it, but I'm not going to. Uh,
That, so I've only actually ever attempted once, which was a really, I know it's just going to sound weird, but it was probably the most sad way of trying to do it, like the stupidest way, which epically failed. Thank goodness. But I do have a lot of suicidal thoughts. So I do think about it. I'll go over my process because my way of thinking about it is different probably than others. Maybe it's the same. I'd actually be really curious to know if it was about the same for anyone else. Um, but the basics here, these are just the basics. There could be more that goes into it. It really just depends on your situation. Could be the environment, could be work, could be school. Stress can often lead to depression as well. Um, and then vice versa. So a lot of these things can happen. They can either all come at once, they can all come in waves. If they come in waves, I really feel bad because like waves are the worst.
yeah.
And then what I like to call the floodgates is when those open up, you're just screwed. um, and I feel like my floodgates have been irreparable for a couple of years. But it was like, I'll go over my personal experiences later on in the episode, but you can kind of see like, if we read off of these little bits, you can kind of see how they all stack together and create like the perfect storm.
Now, this episode is discussing, depression and anxiety within the fandom, and of course, depression and anxiety aren't a very exclusive thing. But later, we're going to discuss how maybe the
No.
fandom can tie into self care. But one thing I wanted to make sure we brought up is depression and anxiety within the LGBT community. The furry fandom is a high majority of LGBT people, and depression and anxiety disorders are just really high. It causes high suicide rates in LGBT folks, especially in trans people and LGBT people of color. We actually have some percentages here just to give what's it called, a comparison, I guess, from the
Right.
average
Um,
heterosexual high schooler. The numbers we're about to list is comparing different high school students and heterosexual students and LGBT students.
Now, we need to keep an open mind because you might be quite surprised. This is just LGBT and LGBTQ. Um, but if you were probably to take this on a grand scale, including everyone, the percentages could either balance themselves out or they could be much greater or much less. But this is just a percentage of this particular population
Yeah.
of people.
So this is from the
So,
Maryland Coalition of Families, and the study has one, two, three, six. Yeah, six different
yeah,
levels.
looks like this.
So the first level is being electronically bullied. 14% of heterosexual people in high school have been electronically bullied, while 28% of homosexuals were electronically bullied, or LGBT students. Being bullied on school property, heterosexuals are at 19%, while LGBT folks are at 34%. One of the biggest
Okay.
jumps is feeling sad or hopeless. Straight students are at 26%, while LGBT students are at 60%. So that's almost triple.
That's
Yeah, it's a huge
huge.
jump. Students that seriously considered suicide, straight students are at 15%, while LGBT students are at 43%. That's at least double. Made a plan for committing suicide, straight students were at 11%, while LGBT students are at 38%. And actually attempting suicide, straight students were at 6%, while LGBT students were at 29%.
Which is quite alarming. The percentages for at the beginning, like electronically bullied, they didn't seem so high, but then if you compare like the high percentages across the board, it's a big number. We don't know how many people were even uh, this could be like hundreds or thousands of students, which is really
Since it was just
alarming.
in Maryland,
Um,
and Maryland has a
yeah,
this makes it a little bit more unfortunate. Maryland, in a study of feelings of like happiness and suicide rates overall, Maryland has a fairly low suicide percentage and a fairly high happiness rate. Like it's a happier state compared to states like Mississippi and Alabama.
and that's not like because that shows you like overall, but like if you were to break down those percentages, this could be a very small chunk that basically goes into the equation of the overall percentage for that state. Now in Utah, I'm gonna just kind of switch back over to Utah here. Utah has a pretty high percentage right now. I didn't pull the percentages on it. That was my bad. But there is a concert that is put on by Imagine Dragons. The head, I guess, the head band member is Mormon,
Really?
but yeah. So this is the crazy part. So the concert is called Love Loud, and he basically heard this is like within the Mormons, like so within the LDS community, there was a high rate of suicide for LGBTQ students across the board in all ages. It doesn't even matter if it was just high school, elementary, middle school, university, college. There was just this alarming rate that it just kept skyrocketing year after year after year. So he decided to put together a foundation called Love Loud. All the money that is generated in Love Loud is then distributed to organizations like the Trevor Project, which specializes in adults 25 and under for suicide prevention, depression, any of those sorts. And it's 100% free for these services. So what he's doing is basically breaking a mold that is pretty strong in the LDS community where we don't really talk about gays and lesbians and all of that stuff, but he's
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And he's doing something that's rough on a lot of people. A lot of people, Mormon wise, pushed back. But that didn't stop them. In fact, I think they've done 3 concerts now, 3 years in a row. They've been really successful in every single one of them. They have hot like bands like Billie Eilish and I think Lady Gaga has come, I think, once before, Katy Perry, a bunch of people. It's kind of like one of those like combination concerts where just a bunch of bands come together. But in this case, it's for a very specific cause. And so when I watched it, because it was only available on HBO and it may still only be available, I believe there is a full like feature length movie that you can watch. It's impossible to not cry when watching that because it hits home in every single possible way possible. I know that sounds weird because I used possible like bajillion times there, but it's true though. If you felt like, oh, well, it's not going to affect me, you're guaranteed to get a bullet through the heart because you will be affected. Um, and I hope it goes better, from here on out. But when I saw that, I'm just like, oh my God. Like I didn't realize, but this is just Utah. So can you imagine like other states that are having to deal with racism and then, prejudice against LGBTQ communities? This is just one or two states. You got Maryland and you got Utah. Can you
Now,
imagine how many other states have those rates?
if you consider also Utah as a fairly religious state,
Oh,
right?
yeah, it is.
Yeah. If you look at the percentages, like down in the Bible Belt, I'm in the Bible Belt. If you notice, a lot of the southern states also have a lot higher suicide rates in LGBT peoples. And a lot of it is tied to religion and religious abuse against LGBT members. And this isn't attacking, you know, religious people necessarily, but it is a connection that um, that should be brought up, since a lot of those states are the ones that need the most help in supporting, you know, not just gay people, but just people who are having hard depression issues in general. And hearing about that concert, those are the kind of allies that we need, especially rich ones like, bands that can
Hello.
donate to things that can help. And it makes me really wish that furry conventions would, step a foot in that realm, because I feel like every single furry convention tends to donate towards animal causes, which, don't get me wrong, animals are cool, but we're people in the end. And a lot of us are, in the LGBT community. I wish more conventions would, switch their charities over to helping LGBT youth, doing LGBT homeless shelter programs, or anything like that. Just putting that out there as an idea, just in case any con chairs might be listening, which I doubt it, but please consider. The animals
You
have
never
enough money right now.
you never know.
Yeah.
I have a couple of contacts within Dog Patch Press, which some of us have reservations for. I don't have a great relationship with them, but I have a couple of contacts within there that I can pass on the message to, and I can guaranteed that message will make it through to other con chairs. But most of the time, I just go to con chairs. I just go straight up to them, knock on the door, and say, "Hey, listen to me," and then I just go from there.
Hey, you.
You look important. Listen to me. A lot of people, well, because that's the thing. Like, some people are like, "How do you get people on your show?" And I'm just like, I ask. I just
Yeah.
do the simple thing of asking. You'd be surprised.
Sometimes all you
Uh,
gotta do is knock on someone's door.
right.
The Mormon way.
The Mormon, for real though. Oh man. So although I kind of want to just put this out there, although I am baptized in the Mormon church, I haven't practiced nor has I participated in the church in over, I want to say 12 to 15 years. So it's been a while. But they haven't excommunicated me yet. So I'm kind of like, what's going on there? Maybe they're just desperate for members at this point.
Probably.
And they don't want to lose them. So with all of this being said, one thing that I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of is that it's okay to feel this way. It is okay to be depressed, have anxiety. It's okay to have suicidal thoughts. What makes the difference is what you choose to do with those thoughts afterwards that makes a difference in your life and others. But overall, it is okay. And I don't think that's stressed enough in the talk about this topic, regardless if you're listening to a podcast, a show, a movie. A lot of people address the issue, but they never really address the now. And I just want to say to everyone who listens, you're okay. There are others out there. We go through it every day. You're not alone. One thing that I kind of got pointed out to me and didn't really realize it is when I was making posts on Facebook and Twitter asking for those to, send in a message. One of our Telegram chatters mentioned that, I'd be surprised if, and they literally just like, I'd be surprised if no one emailed in because it's a tough topic. No one wants to talk about it. And I thought about it. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. So I did the one thing that I probably never would do. in front of everyone. I would do it on my own page because it's different. Um, but I went on to the Straight from the Muzzle page and I just opened up and let it out. And I basically put myself in a position of
Vulnerability.
yes, I let all my shields down. And basically, and I can go, oh my God, I don't even have it pulled up. Let me go pull that up real quick. I have a very strict kind of code that I go by, lead by example. And who am I to ask those to share their experiences if I don't share my experience? So basically, because of that person on Telegram, I went out there and I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. So this is what I said on Facebook. And as soon as I said this, I got a couple of emails in and then a few responses on this particular thread, which we will talk about in just a little bit. But this is what I basically said. You may know me as Space Bear Sparks, and this topic is super important to me. Because of my genetic disease, I will always suffer from severe depression and anxiety. I'm constantly at war with myself with no resolution in sight, and it's frustrating as hell. And suicide. I wish I could say I don't have those thoughts, but not a week goes by that I don't think of steering my car into oncoming traffic just to end it all. And we're talking like on the freeway. Um, so yeah, I've been there and I know how a lot of you feel and how you think. You're all alone and no one's there to help. And I'm here to say that you're not alone and it's okay that you feel the way you do. It's important that we get people to write into the show. And I know I'm asking a lot of you. I know it's scary to open up and trust someone that you don't even know, but all I'm asking you is just to try and nothing more. After that, I got 3 emails and then a major response on this comment. I wasn't expecting any emails to come in because I know how hard the topic is, but I want to say that the emails that I did get in were not easy to read, and I have to read all of them. When they come in to kind of just like vet through them to make sure that they're appropriate. They're all appropriate. But the thing is each email is a little bit different and they're very difficult to take on because you feel for the person, but at the same time you understand and you know it. It's not, like I said, we could say it 100 times. It's not easy. I'm holding it back right now because I don't want to lose it on the show, but this particular topic it just hits home so freaking hard. So yeah.
I just want to take a moment to say thank you and show some appreciation to the folks who did email us or comment or anything like that. We're going to keep you anonymous on this episode today, whether you requested it or not. And just, we really do appreciate you opening up. It really does help get the conversation going and to show how many different experiences and how different depression can be for different people. Which
Exactly.
is good to know. It's not all the same. Not everybody's going to be the same, and everybody's experiences will vary. But all of us, in some way, can have some empathy.
Yep. All right. With that being said, we move into our segment of personal experiences.
Yeah, I want to talk about ourselves before we get into the emails.
Who wants to go first?
You can go first. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So a lot of you know, I've talked about it in the past a few times, but I have something called Klinefelter syndrome. It is a genetic disorder, meaning that I have one extra chromosome. With that, it causes a lot of things and a lot of doors that have opened up that I didn't want opened. I knew that I was different when I was younger. We did tests for ADHD, ADD, autism, Down syndrome. Yeah, they even tested for Down syndrome. Nothing came up, but we never really thought to do a blood test. Always had a learning issue. Always kind of was flamboyant in my own way, but we weren't sure what it was that was causing any of this. I was in, what do you call it? Special ed. Yeah, I was in special ed for most of my education. not an easy place to be in. A lot of memories have been blocked out. Some things, like I was talking with my family the other day, and I was telling them, you know what? I can't even recall half of the things that went on between a specific time period. And my mom's like, well, that's because you've blocked it out. There's a lot of things you don't remember, like being threatened on a school bus by knife, but you've blocked that out. And I'm like, oh my God. And I don't
Yeah.
remember those things.
In high
So
stress situations, your brain can expel memories.
yeah. So there's a lot of things that I just don't remember, but there are a lot of things that I do remember. And I kind of wish I didn't. Um, Up until a couple years ago, I finally got that diagnosis, and I was relieved that I finally knew what was wrong with me. But then the research came, and I found out there's more to this than meets the eye. Depression, anxiety, stress, all of those things will be something I will battle for the rest of my life until I die. Things that I will have to be on medication for, which I don't like being on medication. I feel like a pill popper. And I want to be normal so badly because I don't know really. Honestly, I don't really even know what normal is. I don't even think that's
Everyone's
really
normal
even
is different.
exactly. But I wanted to be like everyone else. I want to be happier and outgoing. And I was in my own way, but I feel like sometimes medications they change you. Maybe they change you for the best, but I just didn't want to be on medications. But it's what had been done because of what I deal with. Um, I've dealt with depression all my life, but I've never really come to the conclusion that I was depressed up until about, I want to say maybe like 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I am 32. So it kind of shows you a time period there. Um, I'm the kind of person that basically says, I'm okay. Your problems are worse than mine. I'll put mine on the back burner. Let me help you. And so that's what I did. A lot of my feelings were always on the back burner. And so a lot of my emotions really were never taken care of in the proper way. And so when I would go home, I would cry because what am I supposed to do with all this information? I would hear people tell their stories to me, but I had no stories to tell to them because I didn't know how to process it. So it just kind of sunk in, and it's always like that. It's like this to this day. Um,
You and I are both similar in that way that we both have the personality type of caretaker where
yep.
you help other people so much and you're focusing on those people and helping them and hearing their stories that your own issues are put on the back burner, and then you get an overflow of information and stress from other people, which can kind of bleed into your own stress, and then it just can push you over the edge as well. If other people are
Mm-hmm.
listening who can relate to that, who are the caretaker types, make sure you become aware and find some ways to cope. It's okay to close yourself off from other people venting if you yourself are not mentally okay. Um, if you need to take care of yourself, then take a minute to do so. Don't be scared to do that.
Don't be scared to tell your friends either.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them, hey, I'm having a moment, or I just need to I just need some time to process. And if they question it, you can tell them. If they're good friends, I'm pretty sure they won't tell anyone else. Good, sourceful friends is what you absolutely need in situations of this particular field that we're talking about.
You don't want to surround yourself in toxicity. If your friends are
No.
upset with you, if you tell them that you need some time to take care of yourself and that you don't want to hear, you can't listen to an event of any kind right now, then if they get angry with you, then maybe they shouldn't be the kind of person that you should be around. Um, you are going to live with yourself for forever. No matter what other people do or say or how long people are with you, regardless, you will always be with yourself. So put yourself and your mental health first if you need to.
Now, going on with that as a caretaker role, um, in the for media role and in this type of role that I'm in now, it's a little hard to kind of take time for myself because I also want to make sure that I'm there for everyone else. But I've come to the realization over, talking with people and research that I can't do both. I have to do one and then the other and then kind of just go back and forth. I can't do both at the same time because if I do, then I have a meltdown and that is just something no one wants to see. Um, so depression is pretty gnarly. When I went to my doctor actually diagnosed me with severe depression. So there's like mild, moderate to severe, and then severe to suicidal and all that stuff. So I'm within that range on almost like a daily basis. I don't necessarily think about suicide because I'm out of a situation that I absolutely hated and I've had time to breathe and just focus on myself. But there was a period of time for the past year where not a day went by where I didn't think I was going to make it. Literally feared going into work and then hated myself coming out. Um, it took before my last job when I worked at Harmon's, the grocery store that you guys might have heard me talk about in episodes past. It took 6 years for that company to break me down. And then I left because I just couldn't do it anymore. The situation that I was in was toxic. I loved my job. The environment was not the greatest at that particular place, and all of my exits have been cut off. So I was basically kind of forced to go. So I found another job, but it was in a stressful environment, and the clients were not nice. They were very mean. And it took that job 1 year to break me down. It took, I think, 4 weeks within the job to just shatter my soul because it was so stressful. But within those time periods, a lot of things happened. I wasn't confident in myself that I could do this job. It was in math type of a thing. I am not great with math. I did awful. I got like D's and F's in school with math. So I wasn't very confident there. No confidence. And from there on out, it kind of spiraled downhill. I failed the course. There's like this certification course. You still do the job regardless, but they give you like these certificates. And I really wanted that certificate. I really wanted it because all my life I was in special ed and I would fail. And now my biggest fear is failure. And failure is not an option for me, even though it happens all the time. And I was failing at this job or at this certification. And I remember like pulling my phone open and I was just crying. And I was messaging Felix and I just like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing? And it was like that every day. Towards the end of the job, I want to say July and mid-August, every day I feared going in. Every day that I was there, I literally broke down. I had thoughts of depression. I hated myself. I didn't want to participate with anyone. I thought I was a loser. I told my husband that he doesn't deserve me, that I'm just a failure in his eyes, and he always has to come up behind and clean the mess up. And it's frustrating because I shouldn't, like, my husband shouldn't have to hear that from me, but that's how I felt. And I went to him and I'm like, I don't know how you deal with it. How do you deal with it? And he's like, you're my husband. I love you and I will always be here for you. That's how I deal with it. And so because of him, I'm able to stay grounded most of the time. I have that buffer, thank God, because if I didn't have him, I don't know if I would be here. I don't know if this episode would be going. I physically don't know if I would be here. Because of him, it's because of where I am today. A couple of days before I actually quit my job, I had to call a program called the EAP. It's the Employee Assistance Program. Most major jobs have them out there. It's just like a benefit to working. I actually had to call them. I never call people. I refuse because I feel like it's not worth my time. There's better people out there that need the help than I do. But in this moment, I needed the help. And I'm sorry because I'm a little teary-eyed over
It's
here, but
okay.
I did. I I really wanted to throw my chair out the window and just jump out. We were on the fifth floor. I would not make that jump. I would die. Um, I wanted to drive my car into oncoming traffic. I wanted to, no joke, go to a store, buy a gun, and just blow my brains out. There's just all of those things were just going through my mind, and nothing else was there. And so I called, and they asked a lot of really difficult questions, questions that I just did not want to answer. But because they're trained professionals, they actually were able to calm me down. And for a moment, after that call was done and I set up an appointment to follow up, I felt like I was at peace. Somehow they brought me back, they calmed me down, and for the first time in like, I don't know, 20 years, I felt at peace. That is just something you don't get ever when you're in a situation like this. But it was also at that moment that I knew I had to leave because this job was literally going to kill me one way or another. And I left. I left with one paycheck and I had another job starting, but it wasn't going to start for 6 weeks. So for 6 weeks, I would be by myself. I've got a new job quicker than that. But I've been able to take care of myself for the past couple of weeks, take time for myself, figure out what it is that was causing the issues, and better myself to go forward. But not everyone is fortunate to be in that situation. And I feel bad because, you know, there are other people that are in much worse situations than I am, and I'm able to finally feel free, and I feel guilty because I don't feel like I should be free. I feel like others should have that ability to be free because they can't. And so that guilt, although it's not my fault, will always follow me because there is people like you out there that I always feel guilty about because I feel like you should also have that moment of peace that you just couldn't have but you desperately need. And that's how I feel all the time.
I know that's a
Um, I,
difficult feeling. And this
it
is
is.
something that my grandmother actually and I discussed a while before she passed. And it's that just because other people are also hurting doesn't mean that your wound doesn't hurt any more or less. It's there will always be people who are better off or worse off than you. And that's something you can't necessarily control, but you can in a way control how you can heal and control the steps that you can take, even if sometimes it feels like you don't. With time and with, you know, perseverance, you can make those choices and help yourself move forward. And in that way, if you move forward and you help yourself, then eventually you can help others as well. You're moving forward right now. You're going into a new job and you're helping children. Like that
Yep.
was you stepped out of a toxic situation. You're moving forward. And if you're feeling guilty because other people are in a worse situation than you, that guilt can be hard to get rid of because I felt it before too. And but you're moving forward and you're actively helping other people who are suffering in some way. You're a
Right.
part of a community and you're helping that community in, you know, your state and the people around you. Um, so and this is for other people as well. If you feel bad because you know people are worse off, try your best to just think about it as a whole, that that's something that is out of your control, but you can in a way control your own life. And if you choose to help others through your own healing, you can do that.
Well said. um, I have a really good co-host,
Oh,
Bean. So even in moments where I kind of feel stressed in a show or an episode, she always knows the right words to say, even if she doesn't think she knows them. You always do. I don't know if you do, but sometimes you just know, and you just perfectly like say what I'm
are
thinking or
you sure
feeling.
about that? Sometimes my sentences are all over the place, even though
I
I teach
know.
English.
I,
What is
I know,
talking?
but
I
it's
don't know.
okay. But that's my story. it's a little bit longer, but I wanted to, let you know that's how I feel. Um, I'm in a position where I can make a difference, both here with Straight from the Muzzle and both at my new job that I start. And that's what I want to do is I want to help, but you can't help those if you're not ready to be helped to begin with. So I know my issues. I know I need to go see a therapist. I know there's a lot of, you know, baggage that needs to be taken care of, and I'm willing to take that stride. It's just going to take some time and it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. I know it will be. And by golly, I'm going to take advantage of as many free
By
programs as I
Garly.
can. Shut up. I thought of it too. By golly. I'm going to take advantage of as many free programs as I possibly can because I also don't make a lot of money. Neither does Felix makes enough, but it's a stress right now that he has to take care of the bills and certain things because I don't have an income right now until my next job starts. So I kind of have to deal with that guilt too, even though he tells me not to worry about it. I still do. Um, so I've got that going for me. But I feel like I'm still in a position to help others as well. So that's me in a nutshell. There's probably more on it, but I don't want to go into further detail. I think I've given what I need to say.
Okay. I guess it's my turn.
Good,
Oh, bud, are you
good luck.
okay?
I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. Are you going to be okay?
Um, yeah, actually, I've been hardened in a way. Uh, I've gone through a handful, not as much as other people have, but I have a hard time like crying when I talk about things. It's not that it wasn't a hard past or anything. It's just that I'm so used to it that it doesn't affect me in that way.
It's how you process.
Um, yeah, I mean, I might, who knows, but okay, so here's me. I have a few things going on. I have type 1 diabetes, which there are two types. There's type 1, which is hereditary. You're born with it, and it starts kicking in when you hit puberty, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then there's type 2, which usually is caused by being overweight, putting pressure on your pancreas and stressing the body in that way, or being old and your pancreas is just starting to give out because you're old. Um, and on top of having, so there's nothing I can do to cure my diabetes, and there is never going to be a cure because the big pharmacy makes way too much money off of it to cure it. So, uh, and on top of type 1 diabetes, I also have polycystic ovaries, which can be helped, but also is difficult to kick off. It's basically a hormone imbalance, and it causes a lot of weight gain, and it causes irregular cycles, so it can make you infertile. It can, make women grow excess hair because it's like a hormone imbalance generally. Uh, and because of the weight gain, it's also difficult to lose weight. And that combined with type 1 diabetes, it just makes it extremely difficult to drop fat. You might gain weight and you'll plateau and you won't gain any more if you keep at a healthy lifestyle, but it's extremely difficult to lose weight, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. But when I was in late middle school, early high school, I started developing symptoms of an eating disorder. So you can imagine having a hard time losing weight while also being a little chunky and getting chunkier combined with having low confidence and beginning to have an eating disorder. It really kickstarts a lot in you. It was especially in my junior and senior year of high school when I was actively starving myself. I had a lot of health issues with my diabetes because I was starving myself. I would wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat and shaking and, about to pass out from low blood sugars because I hadn't eaten. And then I would binge eat. And then my blood sugars would go high. And then I'd be nauseous. And then it'd go back down. And it was a vicious cycle of starving myself, getting a low blood sugar, binge eating, to the point where sometimes I would sleepwalk and eat while sleepwalking. because my body needed food, but I wouldn't let it eat. So I guess it would take advantage of that and eat without my consent by sleep
Good
eating,
lord.
which was, it's kind of funny, but also not. Uh, and throughout high school, also, I had, I'm a lesbian, and I had realized that I was, attracted to women sometime in middle school. And I live in a religious household. I live in Georgia. It's a part of the Bible Belt. So, my parents grew up with that religious household. Um, and my father specifically is a very religious man. He is disabled, on disability. He stays home and he spends his time basically studying the Bible and connecting it to different conspiracies, like flat Earth and lizard
Mm-hmm.
people and all that. So he's not a huge fan of, lesbians and gays and the lot of us. Uh, and living in that household where, because his religion was also tied to conspiracies, anything pleasurable in life was sinful. Not just being gay or lesbian, artwork, was sinful. Pokemon, you can't like Pokemon, that's a sin. You can't go to Target because that's a, Satanist symbol. It was literally everything and anything you could enjoy, he would try to take. And so I was homeschooled my senior year of high school because I couldn't stand the how the school was working for me, and I just needed to be home. But I didn't realize that being home with my father would cause such an issue. So my senior year of high school was when my eating disorder was at its worst, and when my suicidal thoughts were at its worst, and that is when I attempted suicide. I was home all the time. My father constantly accused me of having a demon, of, demons surrounding me.
Oh my
He
god.
would one time he threw salt at me, um, and that caused a
Wow.
big argument. The biggest argument we had, which led to me trying to commit suicide that night, was when he went into my room and was basically pointing out how everything in it was a sinful thing, literally anything in there. I collect Charizards, dragons are satanic, so was Pokemon, so that was a big thing. Art, if you're not drawing art for God, then everything you're doing is sinful. I had to secretly make fursuits because he tried to keep me from it. Um, but I had commissions I had to get done, so, there's that. And he basically went into my room and was like in my face yelling at me and banned me from any kind of art, uh, to where he wouldn't let me go to the school for art club. Like, I was homeschooled, but I was friends with the art teacher in my old high school, and she let me come every, like, about twice a week to do art stuff with her. And he kept me from that. He kept me from my friends. I was alone. On top of that, he also would insult my weight. Would tell me that I should fast, which technically I already was, and I just can't lose weight even when I'm starving myself, which made the matters worse. It made me think
Mhm.
something was wrong with me. So, that night I attempted suicide. I failed. And it just led to I say casual, but more like regularly self harming. Um, and when I started to go to college, it gave me time away. It gave me time away from my house. Um, After having many arguments with my father and having to leave to stay with a friend for about a week, I had to leave a note. And my mom had to have a conversation with him because my poor mom, I love her. She's just very submissive. So anything my dad does, she forgives. Um, and I haven't told her everything. I probably should someday, but uh, after that, he started to chill out. We came to an agreement that he would leave me alone and he would let me live my quote unquote sinful life. And he said, basically, I'm not the one that should be punishing you. God will when you die. So,
That's fair.
so like,
I mean, that's a fair assessment right
so
there.
like, and I told him, and I was like, and this was a long time. I've been out of high school for a long time. Um, and he has calmed down. Uh, I don't know what was wrong with him. I don't forgive him for his actions, but our relationship has changed to some extent. Those things don't happen much anymore. But at the time, having an eating disorder and being religiously and emotionally abused, uh, it wore me down. It made things bad. But going to college and being away from the house, I was able to get back into art because I basically told my family that if I can't at least do art, then I'm going to kill myself because it's the only way I can express myself. Um, and so, things started to calm down. Uh, I started to learn how to talk to my father, and if things got heated, how to calm the situation down, just basically to not fight and to remove myself from the situation. Um, and so things have been calmer. The eating disorder I was working on in the beginning of college, I started realizing that it wasn't helping me. Um, I started realizing that if I keep at it, then things will get worse because while it may kill me, um, I wasn't suicidal all the time. I may have suicidal thoughts, but I didn't necessarily want to die. Sometimes I just felt like I didn't want to exist. Maybe just like put the world on pause, and just sleep for a while. You can't do that though. Uh, so
Kind of have to deal with
yeah, you
life.
can't pause the earth and just take time to chill and mentally reevaluate. You gotta keep going. So I started to slowly get back into eating regularly. Um, and, it made me gain a little bit more weight, not much. But this was also during the time when I met now she's my fiance, but she was a crush just at college at the time. And she was a major help in getting rid of my eating disorder because I never had felt attractive before. I had just a lot of issues with confidence in the past. And having somebody, and I've had other people I've dated in the past, but none of them really ever made me feel attractive in any way. But she did.
Mhm.
And the way she treated me like, a human and not somebody with a demon on their back, uh, it helped a lot. And just regulating me and getting me focused on other things. And now I haven't had issues with my eating disorder in what, 4 years? I've been 4 years
Wow.
clean on it. Because I'm in my 5.5 year of college. Been in college for a hot minute. I'm so tired of it. But I've been clean for about 4 years. I haven't self harmed in probably 3 years. Um, and while I still have, clinical depression and diabetes, and sometimes I'll have suicidal thoughts, I have started medication for my depression, which has helped. I want to go to therapy, but it's expensive, and my bank account runs negative every month, so I can't afford a therapist. But um,
Story of all of our
yeah,
lives.
so
For real.
life is really stressful financially, and just with relationships with friends and family. My dad recently found out that I'm a lesbian and that I'm dating, my fiance, and he wasn't okay with that, and that caused a little bit of tension. Um, but I am here to say that while I still have, the depression lingering and things are tough right now, I am grateful that I am able to express myself through art and that I have friends now and that I have a fiance that's here to back me up. And then I have this podcast and I have you space and you help me out. And
Thank you.
I'm just really grateful for that. And things get better.
It's things do get better. That's the hard thing too. Most people think that it's stupid to say things get better, but truly it does. Sometimes it takes just a little while to do, but in the end, it gets
It gets
better.
better. Even if things are still hard, they will gradually get better. And as you grow as a person, not just in age, but just as a person, because people who are young go through this now. I see it a lot. And, the high school students I'm around, and even when I was working with little kids, I would see little kids with anxiety and depression, and it broke my heart. But with time and with healing, having support systems and coping mechanisms, things can get better. When you're in a pit of depression, sometimes it feels like you can't get out. But someone or something will throw a rope down and you will get out. It may be hard, but you'll get out. And you will be thankful that you kept going. Most people who have attempted suicide and have failed have been grateful that it has failed. I remember reading a lot of statistics and interviews with people who have like jumped off of bridges and misfired gunshots and things like that. Keep going. I think you'll be surprised and you know what good things life will have to offer you.
Life, for some of you out there, when you're listening, you may be thinking, that's not my situation, and you're probably right. But one thing you just have to always believe in is optimistics. You have to just believe that it's going to get better. A little bit of happiness goes a long way, regardless of how impossible it sounds or may be to actually reach. You just have to hope. Hope can be used in so many different ways, but hope overall is what keeps a lot of people alive and fuels them to do better. You just have to hope that one day it will be better. It may not be now, it may not be in a couple of weeks, it might be in a few years, but you just have to hope. Um, that's what I do. I hope. I hope every day gets better. And I kind of say tomorrow's going to be a better day. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's worse. But I keep saying tomorrow's going to be a better day. Because if I don't say it, then I'm going to regret it. And then that day won't be
Yeah.
great. And I'll be like, well, great. I set myself up for failure. Way to go,
Oh God.
space.
One thing, just I know it's hard. It's hard to hear and it's hard to say. It is important to hope. I'll say that, but it's also important to act. If you just sit there and hope that things will get better, but you don't take steps forward to try and help yourself, like if you have the
Good quote.
opportunity to go to a doctor and become medicated, if you have the opportunity to see a therapist, if you have the opportunity to go see a school counselor, if you just sit there and dwell and you don't act, it'll be harder for that feeling to go away. It'll be harder for you to get out of that depressive pit. You have to be hopeful. You have to try to be optimistic, but you also have to try and act. Even with others supporting you, they can only do so much. You have to take some steps for yourself as well.
Now, with all that being said, what's important to also have is coping mechanisms. These are ways to process your feelings, whether it's suicide or depression, anxiety. We talked about one of them, hope being one of them. Distraction is another really
Yep.
good coping mechanism. I know it sounds, you're just deterring, basically putting something on the back burner for the time being. It's a temporary solution, but it's a solution nonetheless. It is a coping mechanism. Other ways to do it, I know it sounds stupid, but sometimes I will just go on a video like binge on Facebook. I'll find like a cute video and then I'll just start watching those and I totally forget about the moment. I may think about it later, but those videos actually help me out a lot. I know what to look for. I'll go to YouTube. Maybe I'll watch a little bit of BuzzFeed, some of the tasty videos of cooking. I love cooking. So that is a good distraction. For some of you, if you like to exercise, maybe get out, fresh air has actually been proven. I mean, that's not an obvious one. It does give you a breather. So if you're having a moment, step outside. Literally just walk outside your
Definitely.
door, breathe breathe some air. Even if you don't walk anywhere, maybe go up and down the stairs and then go back in. Reevaluate the situation. I guarantee you're going to
Going
feel better.
outside
You're not going to
does
feel
help.
like, yeah, it's not going to solve the situation, but you're going to feel just a little bit better
Yeah.
after that. Even if it's raining or snowing, whatever it is, just take a moment, go
And
out, come
coping
back in.
mechanisms aren't
Um,
necessarily solutions. They could be temporary
no,
things that help, long-term solutions are things like medication, therapy, self-help, support
Doctors.
groups, things like that. But coping mechanisms,
Those are full
mhm, coping
solutions.
mechanisms help push you to that and help support you as you're going through those. So it's important to have them.
Another coping mechanism is to talk with your friends and your family. Don't necessarily, but this is literally the phrase my mom uses, and so I actually use it now. I hated it so much that I've actually used it in my own language. Um, she calls it verbally vomiting.
Whoa.
Now, don't verbally vomit all of your, you know, feelings onto a friend. Make sure that, say, hey, I'm having a moment or I'm having a rough time. Do you have a moment for me to talk with you? If they say no, then that's okay. Type it out. Sometimes typing it out actually makes you feel better because then you can get all of your
Writing.
emotions out. Or talk to a teddy bear. Like, no joke. Yeah, like write it, talk about it. Just do something because once you get it out of your brain, then it kind of clears out and gives you a moment to think. But the reason we say verbally vomit is because we don't want to put more stress on an individual who can't take that stress. I am in a position where I can kind of take some of it. So I'm okay with my friends telling me that they're not doing so well because I can take it. I know I can. I'm stronger than I was before. But give it a couple of years back, if you were to verbally vomit on me, I probably would have no idea what to do with that. Go home and cry in the shower. I'd feel better afterwards, but I'd have to take that extra step because I had no idea how to process
Shower,
that.
more like crying
So
chamber.
yeah, it literally is a crying chamber, but it works. And I feel better because then all the tears like rush off your face and you put some eye drops in and you're all good. So things like that. Be aware of, who you're telling, but, talk it out. When in doubt, talk it out. Whether it's with a person or it's a wall, a bush, a stuffed animal, a person, typing it out on Word, yelling it up at the sky for whoever wants to hear it, whatever. It does work. You'd be surprised.
Sometimes something I've done is writing it out. Almost or drawing
Drawing
it
it
out,
out.
anything like that. Sometimes writing or drawing something out, especially for me with writing specifically, if I word vomit through writing, and then afterward I feel a little bit more at peace, especially if I'm like crying while doing it. Because let's face it, the best feeling ever is how you feel after you get done having a hard cry and then you sleep. Like the best sleep you'll ever have is after a hard
It
cry.
is the best. I'll probably sleep really well. I didn't sleep at all
Oh
this last
no.
night. One, I don't really know. My lower back was hurting, so I couldn't really fall asleep. Plus, I was also nervous and excited for this show. And whenever I get nervous and excited at the same time, I just don't sleep. I know it's not going to work. So I was. I'll sleep really well tonight. Another really good way to cope with something is for those who are into exercising or maybe those like I don't really know what they call it. My sister does it. It's like the commando or like the military
Oh
training
yeah,
kind of stuff.
I know what you're talking about.
Get a duffel bag and punch the damn thing. Like literally punching something or exercising, running it out does actually relieve a lot of stress because you're taking all that anger, you're putting it in your fist, and you're punching a bag with it. Don't punch the wall, you'll break your hand, and then you'll have to repair the wall. Don't punch a person unless they're like your coach and they're telling you to. Don't harm anyone. Harm the dummy, like the exercise dummy. Harm
Yeah.
that or harm a
Something
pillow. Go to a bush. Punch a bush if you have to. I know it sounds
such a
stupid, but
fucking bush,
truthfully,
why don't
they
you?
ain't got feelings. You like, I swear to God, if I'm driving and I see someone punch the bush, I'll be like, that person knows what they're doing. Right on.
Oh, something my sister actually did. She had really bad anxiety for a time, like the chemical imbalance kind of anxiety. Not depression, just anxiety. And we couldn't afford medication at the time. So anytime she felt anxious, she just hopped on our treadmill and ran. And she would do that every night before bed because that's when her anxiety would start to kick in and it would just knock her out. It's like it's not a
Yeah,
cure per se, but and I'm not going to be like the hippie like yoga and exercise cures depression. It doesn't.
I am.
But it can help. It definitely
It
helps. There's
helps.
proof behind it. If you are able to exercise or go outside or anything in some way, do it.
Yoga is a really good way to like
I've always
organize your
wanted to do tai
thoughts
chi.
and to kind of just focus. Yeah, basically the same thing, except it's just in a different like
Hmm.
culture. It's just a really good way to slow everything down and kind of organize everything in your life for that moment.
Meditation as
10
well.
minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, do a stretch. That's the same thing, but just organize your thoughts. It's a lot of people think it's stupid because it's just like, it just looks dumb, but truthfully you're using not just like, it's not just mentally, it's physical. So you're using your entire body weight. So for a man like me who is 336 pounds, I'm using 336 pounds to push myself up and to do positions that are just not meant for fat people like me, but it works and I get muscle from it. So it's a really good exercise. You get a good sweat and you feel good afterwards. And no one has to know because you can just do it in your house. Unless you do it outside, then, kudos to you. You're brave.
I don't know,
Uh,
man. Tai Chi kind of looks cool. It's like you're airbending.
I mean, it really does look like it. So, um, with that being said, with all those different kinds of coping mechanisms, we always recommend take the professional route, go see a doctor, see a therapist, possibly get on medication. It does help. If you're one of those that don't believe in medication, ask your doctor about more natural ways to do it. There's always another way. You don't always have to get medications. I go down that route. It's a little bit more powerful. It's just easier and better for me in the long run. But I think in the long run, though, I would like to eventually get off of it. But right now, I'm working with what I have, and that's what I have.
And it's important.
If you can't afford a doctor, it's okay. Do
Yeah.
some research.
And it's also, some people feel ashamed about medicine. Um, like it,
Don't.
I know the feeling is hard to just try, kind of like get rid of. You can't just say to someone, "Hey, don't feel that way," and be like, "Oh, okay. If you feel that way, I understand." Um, but you wouldn't tell like a diabetic, for example, like, you know, you don't need medicine. Like, you do. Mental health is just as important as physical health. A lot of depression and anxiety is a physical chemical imbalance. It is a physical health thing that can contribute along with other things that can happen in your life. It usually starts out with a chemical imbalance. And if medication helps regulate that, that can be your step forward. It's not something to be ashamed of, just like how it's not shameful for me to have to take my insulin. It's not shameful for Space to have to take his medicine. It's just, if it helps,
Part of
then it
life.
helps. And that mindset might be hard to learn at first because there, has been such a stigma behind getting help. And that is because it's such a new thing, if you think about it. Back in, baby boomer generation, if you had depression or schizophrenia or anything like that, you were just labeled as, a crazy person, and you had no help. But with advances in technology and people becoming educated, we've realized that these things are just mental and physical health combined, in that there are ways to help it. Just like there's physical therapy for people who, hurt their leg or anything like that. There's in mental
Right.
therapy, and there's, medication that can help with chemical imbalances. The stigma is starting to go away, which I'm grateful for. So if you're feeling the stigma and you're feeling uncomfortable about it, go online, do some research, go talk to somebody who might be taking the medicine or have been on a medicine for a while. Talk to your therapist about it. It can really help.
You have reached the end of part 1 for the anxiety and depression episode. If you would like to continue listening, please select part 2. See you then.